Actually, I thought I need to get to know her.
Hmm.
She's my best mate. I'm seeing her on Friday night for a barbecue. I think I'm almost saying seek out the people who have really different views to you.
Yeah.
Find out why.
Welcome back to Vision Plus Voices. This is Eben, and I'm joined by Gemma. I've just graduated economics. And Gemma, do you want to talk a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've just graduated from geography. So yeah.
And I don't think Justine needs much introduction, but she's the chancellor of our university. But
Joint chancellor.
joint chancellor, we have to give everyone
Two
credit.
for the price of one.
Very good, very good. Last episode, we were talking about balancing our studies, balancing our internships, everything that goes on in university life, but trying to achieve everything and maximize our time, but really showing that sometimes you do need to take a step back to ensure that you can get where you want. But this episode, me and Gemma are going to be talking to Justine about behind the hiring process, because I think Justine may have seen a few things along her journey. So we're going to straight away get to it, but we do have a question from our last episode that the last guest wants to ask the next guest. And the guest asked Justine was, what was your dream job if it wasn't the chancellor?
Ooh, I think the role that I wanted when I was a student at Southampton is I wanted to go into marketing.
Okay.
Actually, I ended up being an accountant. Of course, my dream job has got to be being education secretary, because that was an incredible role that I suppose I never thought I'd have a chance to do. So yeah, that was definitely my dream job, and I'm lucky enough to have had a chance to do it.
So for marketing chancellor, that's quite a good journey, isn't it? So you talked about being an education secretary, and you said that ended up being your dream job, your dream role. I think sometimes you fall into these dream roles. You never really do have a linear path, even though how much we plan. It really is about maximizing your skills. But if we touched on you being your education secretary, and we know that you also started the Purpose Coalition, and now you're the chancellor. So what we've seen is that you've argued that talent is really actually everywhere, but opportunity isn't all the time.
Yeah.
And graduate recruitment, we tend to see it's sometimes built on the idea that it's selecting just the best candidate. But in your view, how do we know whether we're actually identifying the most capable person, or we're just simply picking the person who's had the most or greatest opportunity to just demonstrate that capability?
I think it's such a good point. And sometimes there's this gap between, and there was for me when I left Southampton, there's a gap between what you can become in terms of almost your social capital and where you're at. And so I think for Southampton, I mean, obviously academically, I really progressed. I did the same degree as you, came out with a first class honours degree, like worked my socks off and really maxed it out. But when I look back on it, my social capital was nowhere near that developed. And I think in many respects, I still wasn't very confident. I remember being in a job interview, just where the student services are now, with, I can't remember, it was a marketing company. I think it might have been ICI, someone like that. And them saying, have you got any questions? And me thinking, oh, I don't know. What are you allowed to ask? Is what I was thinking.
Okay.
So I think developing that social capital really matters. And so there's two bits of it really. One is you as a student realizing that actually getting a great degree from Southampton is essential, but it's you've got to do more than that. You've got to really focus on what are these extra skills that I need to be able to be successful, whether it's critical thinking, building your confidence up, doing volunteering and team building, all of that. But I think also a lot of the work we do is with employers on the Purpose Coalition, getting them to realise that actually in the same way that schools are developing young people, they've got to continue developing graduates. And actually if they can do that, it really means they've got a much broader choice of great people. I ended up getting recruited by PricewaterhouseCoopers. And, when I look back on it, I was really green when I walked through the door. I think I'd only been in an office a few times on day one.
Yeah.
But they did a brilliant job of helping me understand some of those rules that no one really talks to you about how to work in teams, etc. And so they were part of the bridge. But there's definitely part of if you like, that development that you as a student can absolutely have an eye on, and I think do a lot better than me. I think when I look back on it, I was quite naive about the fact that if I just got the best degree, that would open every door. And actually, what I really found, quite painfully, was that employers wanted, a lot of a broader person than that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't know you worked at PwC. I don't think we should be friends. For context, I should be working at Deloitte, so I shouldn't be doing
Great company.
buzzword now. So people say, or recruitment consultants, or anyone that you really meet, they say you have to develop your critical thinking. But what exactly is critical thinking?
Well, I feel like I had to do a lot of it as a Minister and Secretary of State. So imagine you're in a job where you get given bits of paper electronically, and they say, you need to take a decision on this. Here's the background. Here's everything we know about your choices. What do you think? And for me, critical thinking is being able to think, right, first of all, have I even got the information I need? Is this even the right question and decision that I need to take? Have they judged all the risks, or have they missed some out that probably I think I'd like to explore? I think for me, critical thinking is not just taking something on a plate, wherever it's come from. And actually, what I've just explained is very like what you get served up by ChatGPT.
Okay.
Or, an AI, Claude, whoever. It's about not just taking stuff because someone said it's this. It's about naturally thinking, what do I think about that? Is it enough? Do I need more? Is it even true? Like, is that really right? There's sometimes, I think we all experience it regularly now with ChatGPT, where I'll go back on it and say, I don't think that's true, actually, because you've got this mixed up with that. And it'll immediately come back and say, oh, thanks for correcting me. You were absolutely right. I've got these two things, in the wrong place. But it's, if we're in an AI world, then critical thinking and just sense checking stuff is absolutely essential. And also, it's about tapping into the diversity of your own thought. Like, you've got lots of ideas. Why just limit yourself to a tunnel vision on something when you can just explore ideas a little bit more and just make sure that you've thought through everything, really?
That's really interesting. But the easy option, as humans, as students, as staff, we always go for, we tend not to always pick the hard things, even though they tend to be the right things.
Yeah.
So under
Yeah.
time constraint, you've been in the three roles I've listed as Chancellor, with the Purpose Coalition, and Ministry of State. Those are all time constrained roles. So how are you developing those soft skills and choosing those hard decisions, even though those quick, easy decisions are probably a bit more appealing in the short term?
Well, sometimes you've got to take the hard decisions just because you can't not. I think on the soft skills, though, I think you need to realize that actually bringing people with you, for example, and the ability to explain why you've got your sense of what you'd like to do, but also really listen and understand what other people are thinking. Sometimes what we'd call, I don't think there's actually anything soft about soft skills. I think there's some of the most important, crucial skills we all have, because they're actually what make us human anyway. These are the skills that actually, I would say, are your human capital. And that's why you need to develop them. And so for me, you asked about tough decisions. Sometimes there's one thing taking a tough decision, there's another thing being able to do it. And you're almost always, the bigger the thing, the more likely you are to be doing it with other people in a team. You might be leading them, you might be in that team with an idea. So the ability to persuade, to listen, to bridge that gap when someone's got a different perspective to you, and to do the critical thinking to think, actually, have I got this right? Or is there something in what they're saying that I haven't actually thought of? That, I think, is where these things all start to come together. And I found in politics in particular, what really struck me was I grew up, and I was a Conservative MP. I grew up in a very Labour part of the country, but I always respected the really different views of different politicians, because I knew that by and large, we all wanted the same thing. And I think what it taught me was find out why people have a different view to you. Because you might have missed something. They might have missed something about why you think what you think. But actually, you may find if you kind of track back that you come together sooner than you realize. You might agree on the problem. You might agree on the broad solution. You might agree on the kind of implementation. It might be just the last thing. Where you've parted ways. And I think, again, that's why, if like that human capital skills, as I might call them, are so important. Just even knowing that it's worth digging into something with someone in a non-accusatory way, just being interested in their ideas. Why just rely on your own brain when you can tap into the great thinking of other people? It comes back to that talent spread evenly. Great ideas change the world, and everyone has them.
Yeah, that's really interesting, to be honest. And it's touching on that diversity of perspectives that you really do have to seek out, especially as students. I think we go to so many recruitment fairs, but I think it's really important to talk to as many different people, maybe not just in your field as well. And you talked about that you were in a labor dense area and you had to talk with them and converse with them. It's quite similar, I think, to President Eisenhower did that as well. I think every week he used to talk with the opposition and meetings. And it really shows that you have to challenge your assumptions to reach a nuanced opinion.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
I remember when I started my MBA, there was this other student, and you know what? She really annoyed me. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I just thought, oh, for crying out loud. Actually, I thought I need to get to know her. She's my best mate. I'm seeing her on Friday night for a barbecue. I think I'm almost saying seek out the people who have really different views to you. Find out why. Find out why their worldview is different. And it's the same with looking at opportunities. Some of the best opportunities are going to be the ones you haven't even thought of. They're the opportunities that you think, well, I don't want to do that. And I would really encourage everybody listening and watching this to think that anytime you go to a careers fair, pick at least one place to have a conversation where you're like, there is no way I want to do this. But technically, I could. Pick the one that is most divergent from what you're thinking of. Go and check it out, because I guarantee you may well be surprised that they have better careers than you have realized. And I've learned that doing all my Purpose Coalition stuff. There's so many great businesses out there that I know at your age and your stage of life, I'd have just utterly dismissed and thought, well, I'm not going to work there. But they are brilliant at developing people. They are pro-social mobility. They're great careers. They're fascinating roles. And yet I know that I would just thought, I don't want to do that. So yeah, learn from my mistakes.
Yeah. And I think because there is so much advice out there now, and I know you probably get the question, what advice would you give to an upcoming graduate or someone looking to enter the job market? But what's the most common piece of advice that you hear that you disagree with and you think is wrong?
I actually hear loads. If I'm absolutely honest, I don't listen to people giving advice and think, well, that's a load of rubbish. I think sometimes it's easy to say things like build up your confidence. And often the person saying that is a super confident person. I think what I would say is that everyone's different and you'll have your style. And that's just fine. And what I would say is you may well see people on these podcasts or who are successful and, they might be quite extrovert. You might not be. They might be quite eloquent, but then they've had decades of talking on podcasts and stuff. I think don't beat yourself up is what I would say. You've gone to a brilliant university that is hugely well respected around the world. You've already made that great step. You're like me. I mean, I was really developing. I had so far to go when I walked through the doors at PwC, but I still managed to get there. So in a sense, it's one step at a time. Absolutely do what you can. But in a sense, celebrate where you've come from and how far you've got, because that's pretty incredible. And don't lose sight of that whilst saying to yourself, right, here are the things that I think I can steadily make a difference on. And just be yourself and try and learn from other people. But yeah, don't beat yourself up. That's what I would say.
So ingenuity. That's the key, basically.
Yeah, I just think I've met leaders who are really introvert and who've said to me, I'm really introverted, Justine. I don't really want to do this podcast. But actually, they're authentic. They're themselves. And that's why people follow them because actually maybe they can relate to them a bit more.
Perfect.
You know, they're not like, I don't know, President whoever,
Textbook. They're not textbook.
Obama. So yeah, just be the best version of yourself. That's enough.
Perfect. I'm gonna stop hogging the mic and give it to Gemma so she can ask you a few questions. Did you know that applications for Career Mentoring program opens on the 1st of September 2026? Having a mentor can be a game changer for your career. Through the program, you'll be matched with an experienced mentor who can help you navigate the world of work, explore career options, and gain valuable insight into industries you're interested in. Mentoring can help boost your confidence, resilience, commercial awareness, and employability skills, while helping you build valuable professional connections. We also offer specialist opportunities through our enterprise monitoring and diversity mentoring pathways. And remember, you can access the University of Southampton e-mentoring platform to connect with alumni mentors throughout the year. Applications are open on the 1st of September 2026 and apply via www.southampton.ac.uk/careers/students/mentoring. Thank you.
The Career Vision Plus aims to give students early access to insights, employers, and opportunities. Where do you see programs like CVP making the biggest difference in breaking down barriers and improving social mobility?
I think they can hopefully give to me maybe what I needed, but kind of wasn't as thinking of, which is just to think more broadly on the range of opportunities, on what's out there, but also the stuff that students can do just to kind of develop your own personal capital and your own network. So, as I said earlier, the best mistakes to learn from somebody else's. So hopefully, Career Vision Plus can start to really just get some of those voices of people who've absolutely been sat where most of the people listening to this may be, and have then got the hindsight of 20, 30 years after, and what they learned. So why not learn from that, hopefully.
That's really good advice, thank you. Moving on from that, do you have any specific advice, like what would be most important for students focusing on graduate applications right now?
I think it might feel hard at times, but just stay optimistic. There are tons of great opportunities out there. They may not be the shape that you had intended or wanted. I said at the beginning of this podcast, I think when I was in my second year, beginning of the third year, I'd thought I'm going to do marketing. But I didn't do marketing. I just didn't get a job. All of those interviews I did, first of all, I didn't get some interviews, but the ones I did do, I just didn't get through. And so instead I thought, right, what else am I interested in? So I thought, I'll go and see if I can qualify as a chartered accountant. I thought that I love business. I want to get into business. So that's still business and important. It's a great way to get another qualification on my CV and show that I've developed. And I thought if I can get a job with one of the big firms, then I'll get to look at lots of different companies when I go out auditing, because I didn't really know about business, although I thought I'd enjoy it. So I thought, yeah, I think that's an alternative. So I had to completely pivot. I mean, quite quickly to think, right, I'm going to try and get a job as a finance person. And that was my whole career. And yet, if you're asking me probably what I used every single day in politics after my career in business and industry, I'd say it was all my financial skills. They were especially helpful when I was a Treasury Minister. But yeah, I think they really helped develop my critical thinking. You're walking in to do audits thinking, have I got everything I need here? Does this really make sense? Is it all stacking up? A lot of that was tapping into that critical thinking and human skills. Am I kind of getting a sense that I'm getting the real picture here from the people I'm talking to? So yeah, just don't worry if your plan A doesn't come off. There's lots of brilliant plan A2s, A3s, A4s out there, and you will find one. So just make a start, and I think it's I think certainly a different time to be looking for careers now than maybe in years gone by. We're all in the middle of this AI shift that's changing roles, changing what opportunities mean. But I think if you can see what the beginning of the internet brought literally 25 years ago, ultimately it brought huge numbers of opportunities for people compared to the world that we had before. So yes, there's a sort of shift as we move into that world, but actually it is a world that will have a whole range of opportunities. And will be full of different companies. Some of you will go on to work for what feel like quite small companies at the time. I remember a friend of mine saying, oh yeah, he just graduated, actually just become an accountant. So 3 years later, he'd gone to Arthur Andersen as it was then, I'd done PwC. He said, oh yeah, I'm going to work for this, it's like an internet sort of company called Freezer. And it ended up getting bought and bought and bought. He was on an incredible career journey, but I'd never heard of Freezer when he first mentioned it to me. So we're just on the cusp of that. So it isn't easy. I mean, I graduated in 1991 when it was a recession, so again, the firms weren't taking on lots of people, but things picked up. And so, yeah, you will get there.
It was interesting that you mentioned AI because that is quite relevant now. Would you say that that's improved the opportunities within your field, or do you think it's done the opposite?
I think it's a bit of both. It's changing the opportunities. It's like most things in life. There's some pros, there's some cons. The cons are, I think, that for your generation graduating, yeah, I mean, a lot of the changes that companies are making at the moment are on more automation. They might be looking at what that means for the roles they've got, particularly maybe those starter roles that are, say, how I forged my career at PwC. And that's just a reality because companies have to stay competitive. And if they can't, then no one's got a job in a sense. But they'll get through that process. And I think they'll get through it quite rapidly. Do you see what I mean? So at that stage, they'll have a much clearer sense of what the opportunity landscape is, what some of these new roles are that they will want to bring into the business. And I think at that stage, it'll be a clearer picture for graduates. But I would also say, in the meantime, there's still a hell of a lot of opportunity out there. I think for a lot of smaller companies, a lot of them are embracing AI faster. So they're kind of at the other side of that transition sooner on getting to new opportunities. And I think it's just about probably staying nimble. The final thing I would say from Purpose Coalition work on social mobility is a lot of opportunities are a lot of companies are quite live to the challenge that it might be all right saying, oh, we don't need any graduates, or we don't need as many apprenticeships this year. But they are worried about what that might mean for 3, 4, 5 years on, when they need more middle ranking staff with the right judgment and experience that really you need a human to do. So I think a lot of companies are increasingly alive to the fact that it might be all right saving some money today, but actually, how are you going to have the talent that you need 3, 4, 5 years' time? So I think we're quite quickly getting to employers having a more nuanced view of what that might mean for their graduate intake. And so for graduates, it might mean less of that menial work almost that everyone ends up doing when they first go into a role, and more interesting work earlier. So that's why I was saying, we'll have to wait and see exactly how it shakes out, but it's pros and cons. And yeah, it was tough when I was graduating in a recession jobs market. And you just have to navigate your way through and know that things will pick up.
I think that's very true. It will be interesting to see how things are going in the future because we don't know yet.
Exactly. I mean, it's an incredible time. Some people watching this will probably start companies that are massively successful that, tap into what those opportunities can be. I think people will want very different products. to the ones that they've had in the past. And it's probably your generation that is as best placed as any to have a gut instinct of what the products are that you will all want to use in the AI world that you are going to be, forging your career in. So that's why I say there are opportunities. Sometimes it's that younger generation that can spot the world as it's going to be easier than maybe 40 somethings, 50 somethings in business who haven't got a clue what AI even means.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for your insight. We do a little thing where the current guest can ask the next guest a question. It can be any question. So what question do you want to ask the next guest?
What's your next podcast going to focus on? That might help.
Oh, so it's totally random. We do it blind.
Ooh.
But it'll be along the similar lines, of course.
All right. What's the question I'd like to ask the next guest? I think I'll say to them, my question would be, if there's one thing they think employers can do to help open up opportunities, what would that be?
Yeah, perfect. I think we'll get a nice, insightful answer.
It's quite a broad question.
Yeah.
And
is that because you've answered that question yourself?
Sort of, yeah. We get purpose coalition companies to do whole strategies on opening up opportunity, a bit like they've done strategies on sustainability. But I think in asking the question, sometimes the person answering it might not have thought about it before. And so I'm hoping that not only will they have a good answer, that if they don't have a good answer, maybe they'll go back to their company and think, maybe we should do the answer I just gave. So there you go.
Hopefully we get to pass that answer on to you at some point.
Yes, well, it'll be interesting to see what they say, whoever they are.
Definitely. Well, thanks a lot from me and Gemma here and the whole team behind the crew. I think there's a lot of people working hard behind the crew. Thank you from Heather as well.
Pleasure.
She's in. But thanks for your time as well. And hopefully you can see our work pretty soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I'll be down doing graduation in a couple of weeks. So yeah.
Oh yeah, you'll be at my graduation. Hopefully you're at my graduation.
Well, I don't know. We'll find out. You never know.
Yeah, I hope you remember me though.
Well, no. I have to confess. I think I'm doing the engineers.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. I think I'm doing the engineers. But I'll check. I'm going to check.